everybody, I'm Cricut Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so happy to have you here today. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to make felt eyes using sublimation. Now, while I'm making eyes, there are lots of things that you can do using sublimation on felt, so don't feel like it's just eyes. This is just what I wanted to make, but you will need a sublimation printer or a sublimation print on some sublimation paper. You're gonna need felt, and it needs to be polyester felt. There is cotton felt, so be sure that the felt you get is polyester, and I'll link this felt down below. It's my favorite. You'll also need some HeatnBond if you're gonna make some eyes, and you're going to want to have your Cricut and a heat press at the ready. Now, this is such a fun thing to make. I found these to be really great because you can really customize whatever you want to make with them. Now, let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, be sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any of the fun, crafty content we have coming. Now, when we're making sublimation eyes, we'll need a few layers, but it's really easy to do this. So the first thing we'll start with is designing our eye. So I'm going to use a circle for this, and I'm going to make this much bigger so that you can see what we're doing. So this is going to be the actual design that we're going to use for our eyeball. Now with this, I'm going to change this to black. I want it to be black, not just gray. And from here is where we can build on to our eyeball to decide how we want it to look. Now you can make any design that you want to, but we'll just kind of make one that's fun and going to show you how to make this with sublimation. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with another shape. Now, if you don't have Design Space access, you can just create these shapes by slicing out of circles, but I'm going to go ahead and use the shapes. Since I pay for it, I might as well use it. So I'm going to be using this crescent shape, and I'm going to change the color to something brighter right now, just so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to expand this shape, and I want to leave a little bit of an edge around the design here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger, I think. I think that looks pretty good for the size of my eyeball and what I want to do. I like to leave a little bit of an edge around it. I don't want it all the way to the side here. I prefer to leave that little bit of an edge. Now, once I've done that, we can start kind of doing the, like a little white of the eye, the reflection. And again, we'll use a circle for that. So I'm just going to open up another circle shape. I'm going to make this one just bright blue for now, just so it's easier to see, again, kind of what we're doing. Now I'm going to size this down to a size that I'm happy with, and I can play with this and figure out, do I want more than one? Do I just want one? How do I want my eye to look? So I'm going to copy this using Control-C and paste it with Control-V on my keyboard, and then I'm just going to play with the different like eyeball pieces. I think that looks pretty good, so I'm going to change these to white because I want these to be white reflections. Now, this is where we can have a lot of fun because we're using sublimation. We can actually turn this little purple piece into a pattern. So the first thing I'm going to do is change this to print and cut. And then I'm going to go where the color is, and I'm going to see where it says color here. I'm going to change this to pattern. Now you can upload your own patterns. You can use patterns that are already here. You can adjust the patterns depending on like how you want them to look. So there are so many things that you can do with this. It's really fun, but you can really kind of go crazy, have fun, make your own designs. And that's why I really like using this as a great option when it comes to making your eyes. So if you want to make some really fun like rainbow mermaid eyes, you can do that. We've also got like sunflowers, but again, you can upload your own patterns. So have fun with it and make your own and make them how you want them to look. But let's say we want to do, let's do like these rose ones. So I've got this pattern, but what I can do is I can edit my pattern to change up the way that it looks on my eye. So you see they show you a preview of your eyeball right here. And you can change this pattern so that it's either smaller or bigger. You can rotate the pattern however you want. It's really up to you and the way you want it to look. You can also move it over a little bit. Like if you want like this rose a little more centered, you want a little more rose up here. And there we go. We've got our little roses. So let's use a shape. Let's use this sparkle. That sparkle will look good. We'll do that one. So I want to use this little sparkle shape. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to change this to like a light pink so that it matches our design a little bit. And you can really play around with this. Now, it's not quite the right pink, so I'm going to go in and change it by using this advanced option. And I'm just going to play with this until I'm kind of happy with the pink that I want it to be. And you can see we've got like some deep pinks, we've got some deeper rose colors. And if you're just not finding the color you like, you can kind of slide this around and see if you can get a little closer to the color that you want to do. Actually, I think that one's pretty close. We'll go with that. It looks fine. Now we can add a few of these sparkles if we want to. So I'm just going to do Control C and Control V again to copy and paste. And then I can make these however large I want. And then I can just kind of add them to the eye. Now you do whatever you want to your eye. It's up to you. You make it however you want. There's not a right or wrong way to do this. Now that we have this whole design ready to go, like we're happy with it, this is what we want it to look like. I want you to select everything that's in this design, and I want you to use your flatten option. That tells Design Space to hold everything together so that it's not going to move it around. It's going to not cut out all the little pieces. Now for these, we're going to need 2 of these eyeballs. So I'm going to size this down first to the size that I want them to be, and I don't typically make my eyes any bigger than usually about like an inch, but these ones I'm going to make a little bit smaller because I'm going to use them on a smaller plush. Now it does look really small, but it is a little under an inch. So let me scroll over so you can see it better. Now what I want to do for this is I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to then flip it horizontally, and now we have a pair of eyes. Apparently for this part of the video, you're going to notice maybe a slight difference because my microphone decided to stop recording, so I'm re-recording. Now that I have my eyes, and because we're going to be doing sublimation with these, it's really fun, but we're going to be printing them with the Cricut and cutting them as well. So we need to get these all set up onto a piece of the printable area. But what I want to show you really quick is if I click make right now and I tell the Cricut that I can fit, I don't know, let's say we can fit 25 sets of eyes. We want to cut out 25 sets, and I click apply. You're going to see that this really could fit some more. So let's go ahead and let's tell it we want to do 30 sets of eyes. When I tell it that, it's going to set up my eyes, but I'm going to be able to fit more eyes because I've got all this blank space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit cancel really quick. And we're going to use my print and cut template, which if you haven't downloaded it yet, it's completely free on my website. I'm going to load that into my Design Space here, and I will show you our next steps. Now that I have my template, which is super easy to use, yours will say a different number here. Yours is the correct number. Mine is the wrong. So ignore that. But what we want to do is we want to line up our eyes. Now, it's really important to note these bounding boxes because if I were to put a set of eyes up here and a set of eyes over here, our bounding box is going to go beyond the edges. You can't go beyond this top edge or this side edge for your bounding box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my eyes, and I'm just going to make a nice little row. And you can get these pretty close together because we're going to be using the Cricut to cut them out, but I don't want to get them so close together that I can't cut between them. I also don't want to stretch them out like I just did. So once I've got like the 3 in a row, I'm going to select these 3. I'm going to use Control C and Control V. That way I just can copy and paste that same row. Now again, these are going to look a little bit differently lined up than they will when you see me cutting them because I had to re-record this little section of the video. Thank you to my microphone. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill up this entire sheet. And like I said, I want to be careful to keep those bounding boxes within this edge. And again, making sure that they're not overlapping. Like this row is a little too close. So I'm just going to scoot them over. I'm just going to hold Shift and grab all 3. And oops, I missed the middle guy. That's okay. And I'm just going to scoot them down a little. And that's okay. It happens. No big deal. We just move them. So let me go ahead and get this all filled in, and then I'll show you our next steps. So now that I have all of the eyes within our printable area, or so we hope, what we'll do is I'm going to go to the bottom of my layers panel, and I want to hide the thing that says letter size because that's our printable template. Select all of your eyeballs, and you're going to click either attach or flatten. It's up to you. Do whichever one you want. I like to use flatten because it gives me less like layers to stare at. but it looks like it's going to fit just fine into the printable area. Now our next step is we're going to hit make, and it's going to show us our printable design here. And we're going to do some settings to make sure that this comes out absolutely gorgeous, because when you print with sublimation, you do want to make sure that you get a good quality print. So what you'll see here is here's our eyeballs and our printable area, and then it's going to print little ticks in the corner, and those are going to be important because the Cricut reads those to know where to cut. Now what I want to do is I actually need to mirror this design because I'm printing sublimation, and when I press it to the felt, I need it to press the correct direction. But I'm going to show you how to do that because we don't need to do it here in Design Space. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click Send to Printer, and I want to make sure that I have the correct printer selected, and I'm going to be using my ST4000, which is my sublimation printer, so I'm going to select that one. Now I'm going to turn the bleed off. We don't need that for any reason for this project. It's okay. Like, definitely don't need it. And then I'm going to use my system dialog. I'm going to go ahead and click print, but that's not going to send it to our printer. It's going to open up some printer settings so that we can make sure we get a good quality print. Now what I want to do is I want to, again, make sure I have the correct printer selected, which is my sublimation printer. And I'm going to go to Preferences. Now I need to change a couple things here in Preferences. I always make sure Portrait is selected, and then I want to change my paper type, and I use Premium Presentation Paper Matte, and then I want to change my quality from Standard to High, and I always make sure that Color is selected. Now there's two more settings we're going to do for these eyes because we're doing sublimation. I'm going to go to More Options, and I'm going to turn off the High Speed Print, and I'm going to turn on Mirror Image. Mirror image just means that it's going to flip the image so that when we press it to the felt, it's going to be pressed the correct direction, which is so important. We need to make sure that it presses the right direction or the Cricut's going to cut it completely wrong. From here, you can click OK and then click Print to send it to your printer. Once it's done printing, it'll give you this little section here that'll just kind of tell you what it should look like, make sure it's good to go, and it looks fine for me, so I'm going to hit Done. And I'm going to show you what cut setting I'm going to use because I'm going to be using my maker, but you can absolutely do this with your Explore machine. It'll work. It'll work on any of the ones that can do print and can cut felt. I haven't had a lot of luck with the Explore Air or the Joy Extra, but I have done this on the Explorers and it works fine. But the Joy Extra, I'm still working on getting a good cut setting. Now in my makers, I like to use the felt acrylic fabric setting because it uses the rotary blade and it works really well, but you can use lots of different settings. And if you want to look at some other settings, click Browse All Materials and you can look through your different settings. But if you want to see what pressure and what tool, you click material settings all the way down at the bottom, and you can see here that it gives you them all in alphabetical order. You can see your cut pressure, how many times it's going to cut, and what tool it's going to use. And you can access those for any of your Cricut machines. So I'm going to go ahead and show you our next steps, which we need to press the sublimation to the felt. We need to put the HeatnBond on, and then we're going to cut them out. We're first going to set up the eyes for the sublimation, which here is our mirrored one, and you can tell because the arrow is over on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on to my felt, and this felt is polyester, and I'm going to get it lined up pretty close to the edge over here and on the side here, and I'll use some heat tape to tape this down to the felt so that it stays in place while we press it. Don't need a lot of tape, just a little bit just to kind of keep it in place. Now I'm going to grab a piece of butcher paper and take you over to the press, and we're going to press this so that you can see what this looks like. So over here at the press, I have my press set for 400 degrees at 60 seconds, and I'm going to use this piece of butcher paper and place it over this. That's going to absorb any ink that might come through the paper. Then we're going to go ahead and press this down, and we're going to let this go for 60 seconds. Once it's done, go ahead and open up your press, and we're going to pull this off of the press. And I like to take my designs off immediately from my press. Now I did have a little bit of ink that splooged on my paper, which I knew would be there, but the rest of this printed really nicely onto our felt. So I'm going to go ahead and let this cool down, and we're going to cut this on our Cricut. The next thing we need to do for our felt sublimation eyes is to add the HeatnBond to the back. This is a product I use all the time when doing felt eyes, so this is no different. What I'm going to do is line this up so I can see kind of how big I need to cut this. And I'm going to cut this just a little bit smaller. I'm going to cut this right along the edge here. And then, I know I don't cut pretty, it's okay. I don't have to cut pretty. I've got a Cricut for that. And then I'm just going to cut this top section. And it's okay that it moved a little bit. As long as it covers all of our felt, I'm not real worried about it. And then I'm going to flip my felt over. And we're going to put our HeatnBond on the back of the felt. Now, one thing that I will recommend is grab some parchment paper from wherever and place that down under your felt just so that none of the adhesive from the HeatnBond will get on your table, because I've had that happen. And I'm just going to make sure that I've got everything covered. Now I'm using my little Cricut mini press for this. I have it set to the second setting. I'm going to let this finish heating up. She'll only be another moment. And then we can press this down, and this presses really quickly. We will remove the paper and then we'll get these cut out. Okay, little mini press is ready. So what I'm going to do, and let me actually, because I do see that I have some adhesive down here. So sometimes if you do, what you'll want to do, grab some more parchment paper, and I'm going to press the HeatnBond with the parchment paper over it because I don't want to get any adhesive on my little mini press either. So you do need to just be a little bit careful when using this because you can get some of that yucky adhesive on here. And then you want to make sure that you're pressing the entire area, and you don't have to like wait a long time. You can really kind of move your iron around or your heat press or whatever you're doing. I prefer to use the mini press. You could do this on a heat press with the easy press, whatever you want to do. But for me, I just find that the mini press is just perfect because I don't want to have to turn my heat press on or like let it cool down or whatever it may be. So I'm going to go ahead and get this pressed. Like I said, I'm pressing this at the second setting. And you only need maybe like 6-7 seconds on each section. But that's why I move my heat around. And I just make sure I get everything. And then you'll see that we've got this stuck. It's because there was adhesive, which is why I'm glad that I put this over this, because I didn't want this on my heat press because that would be yucky. And having to clean a heat press is never fun. So I'm going to scooch this back down. I'm going to just press the middle a little bit longer. Then I'm going to peel off the paper once this cools, because you need to let your HeatnBond cool so that it is actually bonded. And then once that is complete, we can get this put onto a Cricut mat and get ready to cut. Okay, this is cooled down. So once your HeatnBond is cool, what you can do is peel the paper off, because you want to make sure that you're peeling off this paper. You don't want to put this on your mat. Now I will say sometimes this paper gives me a little bit of trouble. So I will come in with my like pin pen to kind of try to peel it back. But just sometimes it just wants to be a pain and not come off. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this off. So now that that is all stuck down, so you can see the back is now shiny, I'm going to take out a fabric grip mat for this. And I love to use a fabric grip mat. You can use strong grip as well. But because this mat is new, it should work beautifully for this. I'm going to take my design and I'm going to line it up with the corner of the mat. And I want to make sure it's well held down. You can use a brayer for this, but I just tend to just press it with my hands. And we're going to load this into our Cricut, and then we'll use that acrylic felt setting that works so well for this. We need to change our tool for this, so we're going to be using our rotary tool, which is a maker only tool, but you can use your Cricut Explorer for this as well, using the fabric bonded blade. There are lots of ways to do this, but I'm going to use my rotary tool. It's my favorite way to cut these. I'm going to go ahead and load this in. Now I've used the acrylic felt setting. I've got my arrow up here at the top, and I'm going to load this in. We're going to let it read our lines, and then it will cut out each of our eyeballs, and then we'll have a great set of cute little eyes.
I wanna say forever, we could be good together. Guess mystery loves company. Better too late than never. You know we could do better. So take a chance and run with me. Everywhere we go, we turn to.
Now before you ever unload, I want you to double check your cut. So I'm going to peel from the bottom down here and just see if it cut through. Occasionally it does not, so you may need to cut it more than once. This one did not cut through, so I am going to go ahead and cut this again, just because occasionally it just won't quite get it all the way. To recut, you're simply just going to hit this C button and it will cut everything again. I know, I just realized you can't see that, but the little C that looks like the Cricut head, you'll press that again.
In my life, let me show you how it feels to roll the dice. You know you want it, just say the word. Everywhere we go, it turns to paradise. All I know is that I need you in my life.
And once it's cut again, we'll go ahead and check that cut setting, and it looks gorgeous. I think it did a really nice job. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off of the machine, and I'm gonna get these all off of the mat. And then this is honestly my preferred way to make felt eyes, but let me go ahead and get these off, and then I will show you our finished eyeballs. Now, a couple of them did stick to the felt, but that is typical when I cut felt. There's always a little bit of a fuzz on some of them, and that's fine. But these came out so cute, and they're so easy to do. You can make them in so many different styles, and like I said, there's tons and tons of different ways to use sublimation on felt for all sorts of different things. You don't just have to make like eyes for crochet or knitting or whatever. There are so many ways to use this concept to make fun stuff. So use your imagination, have fun with it, and come up with some really fun ideas. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll link everything we used for this in the description. That way you can find everything you need to make your own sublimation felt items. I absolutely love the felt that I use here, so I'll make sure to link that down below as well. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.